guys, welcome back for another edition of the blog. Sorry I've been away for a little bit, but we're good to go. So I promised you how-to blogs this year, and here comes another one. We're talking a little bit about expectations of the women when they come to this process. We've talked a lot about the 90-90-10, right? The 90% of women who are never going to meet anybody in international dating because 90% of the guys who are writing letters to them are never going to get on the plane to go and meet them. And we've talked about the 10% of guys who do go, and how half of those guys are probably ready for a relationship and have the social skills and the ability to make something impactful happen, and half of those guys might need a little bit of support in order to be successful going forward. And I think it's healthy now to talk about what the women expect when they come to this process. Another topic that we've covered is who are these women, and typically why do they come to an international marriage agency like a foreign affair? Well, so the women are here with their posted profiles, and you're here as a paying customer reaching out to these women. You've done some correspondence, or maybe you've just decided to get on a plane and go join us for a romance tour. When you get to wherever you're going and you meet these women, what are their expectations in this process? Guys, one of the things that I've talked about a lot is how the women in places like Ukraine or in Latin America are incredibly gracious to us guys who get on the plane and go halfway around the world to meet somebody without necessarily being able to speak their language. So again, we take completely for granted the fact that we're getting on a plane and going to someone's country to meet them, court them, fall in love, and find a life partner in this process without necessarily spending a whole lot of time learning the language. Now, we know how we feel about people who come to our country, and there are all kinds of polarizing issues around that. But the reality is the women are very, very forgiving of that. They absolutely are okay with us not knowing their language. We have ways to communicate, resources and such. So what do women in this process want? Why do women join a foreign affair? What are their expectations? I've asked hundreds and hundreds of foreign women from all over the world that question in the past 10 years. And what essentially these women will say in response to that is, I want whatever I have right now plus the guy. So a lot of these women join us because they live in a place where it's difficult to either find a life partner or to find a monogamous life partner. And they'll tell us, my life here, contrary to what you may have heard from in your media, is fine. I work long hours perhaps for low pay, but I do work and I have a steady income and I have a place to live. I have access to health care when I need it or if my child needs it. My child has education, a promising education. I can pay the bills. I'm not looking over my shoulder at any creditors or anything like that. If I want to go out to dinner occasionally, I can afford to do that. If I want to go on a little bit of a vacation here and there, I can do that. Pretty much whatever I want to do most of the time within reason can be accomplished. I just don't have the guy. And 99% of the foreign women who come to our agency will tell us exactly that. So if you can add a loving, faithful, monogamous guy to that process, that would make me really happy. So when the women come here, guys, their expectations don't necessarily change as far as what they want in their lives. They want to come here and work because they could work where they were. They want to have a bank account, a shared bank account, access to money that they will earn or two of you will share together. That's what they had there. They want to have access to health care if they need it, and certainly for well care and those kinds of programs for themselves and their children, dental care, vision care, etc. And again, they have that there, so they'll want it here. They want to be able to pay the bills. They want to be able to go on a picnic on the weekend, occasionally buy a toy for the child, occasionally buy ice cream or dinner or whatever it is that we do in our spare time, what we would consider to be those frivolous, fun things that we do. They want to do all of that just as we do, just as they do, but they want the monogamous, faithful, loving life partner in addition to that. Right? I think most of you guys are up to that, so I just wanted you to be aware of what their expectations are when they come here. A lot of guys ask that question. So here's something else actually that women in this process want. They want to experience a courtship and a love relationship at a very realistic pace. And this is something that trips a lot of guys up because a lot of the work that we do here at A Foreign Affair, when we reach out and talk to the guys and when we're coaching the guys who are going on our romance tours, certainly a lot of the stuff that I put in my book and that we dedicate our blogs and our webcasts and our conferences to is to show you guys that these are very real women who are not poor, dumb, and desperate like our media wants us to believe that they are. They're not living in mud huts. They're not waiting for some Neanderthal to come over and throw them on his back across the Bering Straits to America. Contrary to what the media would have us believe, that is nothing like the women that you're going to meet in this process, who are typically educated, quite intelligent, very self-respecting, very capable, resourceful women, right? But they want to fall in love, but that has to happen at a natural process. Too many times, guys, we write letters to women that we believe are, really lonely and really desperate. The women aren't desperate, alone, but not desperate, right? So we're writing the letters, and we're falling in love through our own correspondence, whether we realize it or not. Guys make the mistake of doing that all the time. We fall in love through letters before we've even met somebody. And then we get on the plane and we go and meet somebody, and we have a great beginning, a couple of first great dates, but we've already been in love 4 months ago from all of our correspondence, so we guys are ready to fall in love as soon as we meet. I mean, it's just a matter of getting the technicality of the meeting out of the way, and then we're in love, right? And guys believe many times that they are in love after a first meeting, after a little bit of correspondence, when in fact, of course, love takes time to develop. It makes sense, right? You need a courtship, you need time to get to know each other, you need your common ground to build, you need your chemistry to build, your attraction to each other, you need to share a lot of stuff, you need to open up, get beyond barriers. The normal falling in love process is definitely part of the deal when you get on the plane and go and meet these ladies. And sometimes I have guys that come back from tours that believe that the women were disingenuous, or the women were not sincere, or the women, weren't as ready for love as they were, when in fact the women were perfectly ready, but they were expecting a normal pace. And we guys kind of accelerated the pace a little bit because we were attaching a little too much emotion to the correspondence that we were sending out. Now again, that's a very natural thing for us lonely guys to do. Suddenly we're writing to somebody and they're writing back, and we're so caught up into that sometimes we attach a little bit more significance to it than we really should be. You've got to get on the plane, you've got to go, you've got to meet, you've got to go out on some dates, you've got to court each other, and then you begin to know if you're really falling in love with each other, and only then. So a natural progression is what women in this process do expect. Too many guys come back having met somebody really sincere, but just believing that things didn't go as quickly as they should have gone, so the women were not sincere, and they kind of goofed themselves up. So we try and coach guys through that process. Let's talk about what women who come to agencies like A Foreign Affair don't want or don't expect. I can tell you right now, guys, women in this process, typically the vast majority of them are going to want to fall in love and to get married and to have an honest relationship, as I mentioned before. They're not so much into pen pals, right? So, there are a lot of guys that write letters. I've said it many, many times. 90% of the tens of thousands of men who write letters will never get on a plane and go and meet anybody. And sometimes, if the letters never get off the ground, we doubt the whole sincerity of all the women in this process, or the agencies like A Foreign Affair who bring those women to you. But in reality, guys, if men are going to write letters to the women, and the women are only going to receive letters and not have a chance to meet somebody, well, that's a pen pal situation, and women in this process are not looking for a pen pal. They are looking for a life partner. Yes, they will absolutely write to you and use correspondence as a tool, but they're not going to write for a year or 2 years at a time. They definitely want something to come of that correspondence and all the time and effort that they're putting into it, especially if they don't speak English as a primary language. So, guys, it's on us after several months of correspondence to make the decision, pen pal, keyboard Romeo, or foreign bride, life mate finder, and we have to come to that crossroads and make the decision to move forward, because women in this process will hang out with in correspondence for a little while, but at some point they definitely want to move on. Something else the women in this process typically do not want or do not expect, and this confuses a number of guys, and I got to tell you, this is something that I talk about and have talked about for years and years and years, and there are guys that have heard this, but they blow beyond it and still wind up on our romance tours with the wrong expectations. Women in this process do not want casual relationships. I'll put this bluntly, guys. Women in this process aren't looking for intimacy with a guy just for the sake of intimacy with the guy. Women in this process, whether they're from Ukraine or China or the Philippines or Latin America, are not just looking to prove their worthiness to some guy by being intimate with him and hoping that he'll decide to fall in love. It's nothing at all like that, guys. In fact, guys who go on our romance tours with that expectation are usually sorely disappointed, and those are typically the guys who will come back and they're quite prolific, and they'll write all over the internet what a scam the whole thing is, because even though they don't necessarily spell it out in detail for you, I couldn't get these women to sleep with me on a first or second date. Look, women in this process, guys, if they only wanted casual sex, they would stay in their environment with their local men who only want casual sex, and have casual sex with men who are typically younger and better looking than we are. The reality is they want a husband, they want a responsible life mate, they want a monogamous spouse. That's why they're here. That's what we have to offer them that their local men do not. And I can tell you right now, guys, that's the vast majority of what certainly a lot of these women would expect. So I guess another item that comes up is that in the environment where women are going to meet men in this process, something that they may not expect or be a little bit surprised by. Sometimes, guys, we start out on this process and we want to do our research and we want to become informed before we get on the plane and go anywhere. And you read a lot of stuff on the internet. And lately, it's kind of interesting. The last 6 months or so, I have experienced a handful of guys who have come to me with preset expectations and notions of how this whole thing is going to go, and they're absolutely entrenched in that preset of notions. So some of that involves all the women have access to the internet. If I can't get their email, I'm not bothering with them. I'm going to speak to women who speak English. If they don't know English, they should be able to learn English quickly enough. If they're going to meet somebody, they're going to have to learn English. I only want to meet women who speak English. You know what? If they don't have Skype and they won't Skype with me, they're not sincere. I'm not wasting my time with them. You get these guys who are just stuck in a paradigm which is wrong and grotesquely misinformed sometimes. And even nice guys with really good intentions will sometimes go into the international dating process with a completely incorrect set of expectations. Not a lot of fun to coach, I have to say. Some of you guys are really stubborn, and again, these are guys that typically will come back really confused because they're sure that they met really legitimate women, but they just couldn't get anywhere because the women in this process are thinking, this guy's a little too controlling. This guy, he can't be influenced. He can't change his mind. You've probably heard the expression, you can't tell this person anything. Sometimes we have very well-meaning, nice guys on a tour, and you can't tell them anything, and the women find this out. So at some point, the women decide that maybe it's just not worth going through the process with somebody whose opinion can't be informed and changed. Now, that doesn't happen to a lot of guys, but it definitely happens to some guys on our tours. So again, guys, being flexible, being able to look in the mirror and say, I'm excited and I certainly know a lot, I've read a lot, but I don't know everything, and I can learn and I can grow as I get information from well-meaning people. It's definitely a strength that you want to have, guys, right? There are guys that come to this process expecting that these are all desperate women. Again, I mentioned it earlier, and they're just expecting the bachelor party in Vegas type of environment. Man, no matter what I do to show these guys that's definitely not what you're getting yourself into. This is a very integrity-driven process with very, very good women on the other side of it. It's really hard for those guys, again, who are stuck in that paradigm to get themselves out of it. But, guys, for what it's worth, if you're looking for a life partner, if you're looking for a spouse you can love and adore, treat as an equal, nurture her dreams, give her as much love and support as you possibly can, listen to her, let her opinions and ideas impact you and affect you and your relationship, you're in a good spot. I can introduce you to so many women who will fit that description for you, and they will be incredibly lovely and beautiful. If you're looking for party girls, guys, I would suggest that we're probably not the right option for you, frankly. The guys who look for party girls don't do us any favors in Ukraine. If anything, they just kind of damage our reputation temporarily, and I'd rather not do that damage control with the very nice women that are in this process trying to meet somebody for all the right reasons, right? So, guys, hope you're listening on Monday nights. Hope you're listening to the Thursday night webcast. Don't forget about the live daily chats that we have. We say daily. It's actually several times a day. You can talk live with a very beautiful girl at loveme.com, and just keep listening and watching and get as much information as you can as we help move you forward in this exciting process.
Want to learn more? Check out our website at firstlatinwomen.com. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Then click on the notice bell to get notified every time we add something new. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google+.